So that's what it's like to come out here in the morning at HawksHaven. And we walk around and we see what's going on. And I don't have an image stabilizing camera, so deal with it. Nobody's really supporting this place. So we're doing what we can. All right, so we come in through little rabbit holes. And we have little ponds everywhere, right? And these little ponds everywhere have little fish in them. And these little fish make poop, right? And when they make poop, there's a resource yard that we stash some stuff. This was a Christmas tree from like 5 years ago. And then I bought it as a nursery tree instead of a murdered tree at a tree at a tree graveyard. And so then when Christmas time was over, I put it outside. And when it was in the house, I watered it with ice cubes, and that kept the water from running all over the floor by watering it slowly. And it tricked the roots into believing that it was still outside in the wintertime. So when Christmas time was over, because that's when we murder all the trees, right? I put it underneath the eave of the house, and that kept it watered. And then in the spring, when the snow all melted off and the ice subsided, then I brought it outside and I planted it. And these are ways here to, okay, so this is called a terrace, and it holds water, right? So when the snow water comes off of this area, it all comes down here and gets trapped. And where it gets trapped, it's not fully planted, but it will be pretty soon because I got a bunch of plants for my sister. And this is going to be another great place to put them. So we'll also be putting the mulch down like what we just walked through. But putting trees in everywhere too, right? And we put those in a little bit of a depression. And so like when I water right here, the natural gravity of the water, it works its way down this way, but then it finds a low spot here that it can also travel around the backside. And then it comes down this little area here, and then it drops into this hole, and it goes this way to a hole. But when that hole all fills up, then it works its way down to the next one, right? And so it comes down to that hole because that's good things to have in the desert are holes, and water collects into holes, and it helps to create what is going to resemble much more like an oasis. So here's another tree that when I get these trees from the nurseries when they're almost dead for cheap, very cheap, I go ahead and I just trim them all the way down because if they try to support the life of that whole little branch that they had, there's a good chance that they die. So you cut away what doesn't work, and we build rock walls everywhere. And here's another big pond that my friend gave me for a good price. And so that's got probably, I would say there's probably over 70 to 100 goldfish at least in there. And they make poop, right? And so I take the buckets and I gather up the poopy water and I spread it out around to the different trees and garden areas. And I mean, I could use a pump, and one day that'll be nice. I'll have a 12-volt pump out here on a solar panel. That way I can water much easier. But hey, that's just not happened yet. And it could, but it hasn't. So until then, I use the bucket method. It keeps me from not dying like this guy. So in the fall and the spring, when it's safe to do so, I burn off sections that are going to create a good fire barrier later on in the seasons. As you can see, these hills are all pretty combustible in the summertime. And so what you can't see from here, though, is like right here and right here. Where is it? Right about there. There's a terrace that goes all the way across. So if a fire does start down here by some irresponsible person flipping their matchsticks out or their cigarettes or whatever, it can only burn so far. And there's an option or the ability to hopefully slow it down. People, seems like when there's uh, a smooth road, people, they just need to drive fast. And that's all right. They always got somewhere to go, right? Always got somewhere to go. So anyway, yeah, this is another area, been terraced. And in this terrace, you can see at the edges here, and in a couple spots where it's worn thin or moved around, we take cardboard, okay, and a lot of cardboard. And so the cardboard that would normally be uh, thrown in a landfill, or sometimes it is recycled in other things, but not all the time. I mean, there's a lot of cardboard that's just being thrown away. And so when the cardboard is laying on the ground, I do it in usually at least three to five layers, and then I throw the chipped up yard mulch on the top of it. And in that, um, it really it feels like I'm walking in a forest right now, you know. And then people give me truckloads of horse poop, and so I put truckloads of horse poop or truckloads of cow poop. Or just recently, um, one of the cannabis farmers has offered me their soils that they're done with, after they've washed them through their processes of growing. And so in that, um, you know, I'm bringing the biodiversity into the desert, and into the desert, it allows these things to grow. And so there's all these pathways that I've been creating here. And in these pathways, sometimes you can find some chaos because it's not done yet, right? It's there, but it's not done. And so, see, these are some of the plants that my sister has provided, and so it's really helping the gardens fill up. So I've been building these rock walls, lining all the gardens. They're decorative, but they're also functional. The rock wall creates a condensation. It works as a condensation generator by, in the nighttime, it cools down. And I mean, and it rained this morning, so they're they're this wet because it rained, but they gather the coldness of the night, and the rocks become very cold, right? And then in the morning, when the sun comes out, the air temperature warms up. And when the air temperature warms up, then it causes a dew point because there's a difference of temperature. And in that difference of temperature, it condenses the humidity that's in the air as moisture, right? And that's the way it works. That's the way water works. So we're using all these principles. And when we use all these principles in the desert, where there's a desperate desire for growth, I mean, everything, it's looking for some shade. It's looking for it's looking for a better way than there was before, right? And I think that's where like stories of Jesus came about, is Jesus went to the desert because it's what's natural. It's what exists before man has manipulated things and ways of being that promote control and dependency, and everything happening to be on a chain or in a cage or in a cell or on a block. Maybe we were just meant to live free, right? Free, beautiful, independent, blessed and beloved children of God here on the earth, to use the resources available to us in a way that promotes health, happiness, peace, and abundance for everyone, everywhere. Right? Because abundance does exist. I mean, some people, they come here and they think that I'm rich, where when I'm actually having, there's some issues just paying property taxes, and when the electric bill comes, and they they see what I've done here, and I do feel rich because I'm experiencing a life that a lot of other people don't experience. But I'm only experiencing this life because I spent my hours grabbing these rocks out of the earth, and then I spent my hours stacking them up. I spent my hours helping my friend move out of a toxic environment, and the white rabbit came with her, right? I spent my hours taking out the piece of sagebrush that was right here so we could have a walkway. I spent my hours stacking rocks and planting trees and digging holes and trying to get big, heavy rocks out of holes before we plant the trees and the plants and stack some more rocks. The difference between me and anybody else is I'm doing the work that builds the life that I want, instead of doing what everybody else does and paying on every level to exist, to be in dependency of somebody else. Because like when a landlord provides space for a person to live in, they're usually not going to do it for free, And so that person has to live their life making money to pay somebody else to take care of them, to provide for their wants and their needs. And the thing is needs are really easy to accomplish. I mean, really, shelter, food, and water are needs. And once you have those met, it's pretty easy to do the things that you want to do that are going to make you a lot happier and healthier and peaceful and abundant, right? Because once you have some space to exist, it's easy to gather resources. So like these resources, somebody was going to have to pay to get rid of them. And instead, they called me up and they said, "Hey, would you like these?" And I said, yes. Yes, I would. And I said wood, because look at that. That's wood. And that's one of the ways that I keep my house warm in the wintertime, is with wood. And so I have a tool called a chainsaw and a reciprocating saw and all sorts of other saws that um, that can take wood and make it into the sizes that I need it to fit in my stove. And then other people, they bring me rocks. I like rocks, because they would have had to pay to get rid of this. And you would have had to pay probably $60 to be able to dump this pile of wood and rocks and dirt somewhere else. And because I recognize them all as a resource, I say, hey, just come here and drop them, because I like them. And I've gotten a whole bunch of truckloads of horse manure, people cleaning out their barns. And I get wood that sometimes they're even willing to cut up into the fire size pieces. And so that amount of wood can burn for, well, in my stove it can burn for at least, I can keep the house comfortable for a month on that amount of wood. And an electric bill to keep my house comfortable, it might cost me $100 or $300, right? What makes sense? What makes sense? Are we doing what makes sense? Or are we doing what somebody else? It makes sense. It makes dollars and cents for somebody else, right? I mean, which way are we wanting to move in society? Are we wanting to make our children have to work 90 hours a week so that way they can afford to exist? They can afford to live? Or do we make life happen in a way that it makes sense? Like here, all right? So this is something else I show on the tours here. This is concrete that a gentleman made a donation of. And it took him 13 truckloads to be able to bring this whole donation to me. But he didn't put them like that. He just, hey, Monty, come here. Hey, what are you doing? Come here. Monty, come here. Oh, the neighbor's dog run you back home, huh? Yeah. All right. Anyway, it took him. Well, he just piled it up here, right? There was just big piles of concrete. They looked like chaos. And when I came down and hey, come here. When I came down and saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all of this concrete? This is I bit off a little more than I could chew. But after 3 days of stacking concrete, not not 3 days in succession, because this is a lot of weight. But in 3 sessions, over the amount of about 3 days, I stacked this all up, and it's really, really solid. I mean, you can walk up the walls in any of those places, and you can or you can climb them. And then I was thinking, I was like, gosh, hey Monty, come here. Monty, come. I was like, if you took a little bit of wet concrete and you put it between all those cracks, then the mice and the bugs and stuff wouldn't get to you in your house. And you could actually build a whole house out of this. And it's really strong. And one of the cool things about it too is it also works as a condensation generator when it's outside, because that's a choke cherry bush or tree, and I haven't watered it at all, like all summer, but it still produced cherries, and it was pretty abundant. I mean, it was full, and it was only getting water in the desert off of that wall. So that's kind of a good little proof that that principle works. And hey, come here, puppies. Come here, puppies. Come here. Monty, Collie, come. So we're building these concrete walls in a lot of places because it makes sense. And in case you didn't know, I know this cable right here that doesn't work to keep anybody from walking in. Really, I mean, it's not like razor wire, but it does keep the state or the county or public officials, public servants from being able to just drive onto your property, right? Because there's a physical barrier. I can have just a piece of string there, and that's a physical barrier. This is a cool bus. And for only $7,000, you can make it yours. It's got a fold-down porch with a cover. It's got fold-down bunks. It's got a bathroom in the back. It's ready to put a wood stove in it. It runs and drives. Or, if you'd rather have a shuttle bus, for only $4,000, 2 days price, you can drive away in this V10 powered E350, or E450, I think. Yeah, E450 van. Doesn't get great gas mileage, but you can live in it. So it beats paying for rent your whole life. So we're coming up the road here. Sorry, my videography isn't that great. Need to hire somebody who's better at that. Somebody wanted to donate their time. So I picked up a bunch of these cherry bins here. They're damaged. And so instead of them costing probably like the $300 that Western Sweet Cherry Group bought them for, I got them for $5, you know. But they're still really durable. I mean, right? I mean, like these are a perfect grow bed and a raised bed. And so what I'll be doing is I'll be taking that mulch and placing it in these, and that'll have some good gardens growing. And my anticipation for those gardens are are you crazy? I don't know, maybe asparagus. I don't know. We'll see. Here is a composting section, and so this hole is over 8 feet deep from the road level, right? And from the road level, it it goes down 8 feet, and then so I picked up for the homesteading, or no, I'm sorry, the homeschooling group that came just recently. I stopped in. I picked up 2,340 pounds of apples, and 2,340 pounds of apples is a lot, but it doesn't fill the hole. And so we use cardboard, and we use leaves, and we use garden scraps, and some the small branches, things that break down pretty easily, things that hold moisture, and um, the chipped up yard mulch from the dump. I get the planer shavings from woodworking shops. I get coffee grounds from the baristas in town. I get barley and like oat grains and stuff from brewers. Um, whatever I can grab that is organic and decomposes, we fill these holes. And so like I'm standing on top of about 8 to 10 feet of that material right now. And I worked my way back and forth through this section, and by the time we're all the way down here and we start working our way back to the other end, it's all turned into soil. And to turn it into soil, it just takes time and some water and, you know, mixing it up, you know, and luckily I have a machine that helps me do that. And dogs that motivate me to run around everywhere. But if I were running right now, the video quality would just be shit. So my sister, she bought a really cool one of them quad deals, a Razor, and then they bought a cool GoPro, like, I don't know, it's like one of the newer ones. And she's like, it kind of sucks to watch the video when it was so exciting of a ride in the Razor, but then you watch the video and it looks like you were driving over a paved road. And she's like, that's just totally not how it was. She's like, it was exciting. And people need to be able to do that. You know, they need to experience these things, not just see a watered down version of it on YouTube, you know. So here's another garden. Other resources, retired boats. That boat right there, that has a pretty cool cabin in it. It was bought for its engine and its trailer, and the owner of it was just going to throw it away, and he offered it to me instead. But I mean, you know, I'm talking 8,000 pounds of fiberglass that people live in on the water. Why can't you make a little cabin right here on the land and let what was holding back water hold back dirt, right? You improve the soil, you improve the conditions and the ability of the landscape to hold water, and stuff just starts growing. So like these are tomatillos, and I didn't even plant this plant. It just it in one of the things I threw away in the mulch, it popped up. You know, anyway, that's a tomatillo. Did I even get that on video? I don't even know. Right there. That's a tomatillo. And it just popped up and said, hey, I'd like to live here. I said, all right. That tree right there, it popped up in one of the other gardens, and so I moved it last fall, and it's been taken off. Here's a raised bed that was just created this summer, and thanks to my sister, got some plants that look like they've been in there for a while, but they haven't. It's only been a couple weeks. Carly, come here. Monty, come. So here's another little fish pond. I don't know if we're gonna see them, but there's fish in there, and they're all goldfish, but they're not all gold, right? I mean, because some goldfish aren't gold. And there's some mint, and I don't know what that one is, but it was kind of cool, so I just let it grow. There's some lavender, and another lavender, and an amaranth that is monster. It's a monster amaranth. So I'll be harvesting the seeds off of that and then spreading those out along the terraces that I've been creating. There's some more. I think that's some tomatillo in there too. This old tractor. You think that she's wore out? Not quite. She's still working hard for us. Got some leaks, got some groans and grunts, and sometimes she just wants to take a break. And I'm in agreement with her. Don't panic. It's organic. So we got some rhubarb and some little snake houses or gerbil houses, and more amaranth and pallets that are needing, they want some more attention as to how they're providing shade and structure, wind, windbreak, basically. Here, another guy says, "Hey, you want this giant stump?" I said, "Sure." So he dropped it off. And once we get all the dirt washed out of it, I'm gonna kind of see, but I think it's gonna turn into a giant chair. I mean, I don't know if the well, those are full-size pallets